Black, white, zombies, still insane, still really good in standard. People are sleeping on it a little bit because I haven't made an update after the Pro Tour. None of us have put out our sideboard plans. None of us have explained why the deck was so good for Chris Fennell to start out 9-0, finish in the top 8. Had a great run for Team Lingering Souls. And I decided I had to do it. I can't sit back and watch Standard rot into fucking Marvel flip six mirrors when there's such a good deck that not a lot of people are playing that happens to have a pretty good Marvel matchup actually in Black White Zombies. So I'm coming at you. Welcome in. Much love. Trav here with the Black White Zombies updates. We'll go over some matchup plans. I've held this just for the mastermind up until now, outside of the team, obviously. But I think that it's time to affect the metagame because I'm not going to wait around, tell people to play Marvel, everyone to play Marvel, wait around for them to ban Marvel and random shit. Like, you can play this and smash everyone. So, talk about the Pro Tour a little bit. Again, welcome in, much love, Trav here. Hope you're doing awesome. Hope you're doing amazing. A little bit about the evolution of this deck. I was playing Mono Black Zombies and was smashing that ass until I ran into Black White Zombies online and it smacked me up. We figured out that Black White was better versus Marvel, was better in the mirror, was better versus Mardu, we thought. And I still believe that. I believe it's better in every matchup. So we worked on it for the Pro Tour, and we had a top 8. There were 6 of us, 4 of us on the team playing it. And I didn't have the best result, but I'm not that mad about it. I spent a lot of time on the deck, but I spent a lot more time working on draft, and that paid off for me. I have Draft Master as a shot for Worlds, right? So I care about Standard, but ultimately I didn't work as hard as I could have for that reason, and that's one of the reasons my results weren't as good. But don't be fooled, the results were great. We had a 9-0 into top 8, and he beat 5 straight Tamir Marvels to get there, 5 straight versus Tamer Marvel. And we didn't even have the right list at the time. So I'm going to go over some changes, but basically, I'm going to assume you understand zombies. Why white? Why does it really give an edge in every matchup? Well, for one, I think that, honestly, Shambling Event might be enough on its own, like worth it just to splash Shambling Event. This card is so good. You know this card is good. It's modern playable good. It gives you life gain, which the deck wants. It gives you an extra mana land, which the deck wants. It gives you resilience to sweepers because you get to keep something, so you can kill their Chandra if they sweep you. Just a great card, right? Almost worth it just to splash Shambling Vent. We also have life gain and Wayward Servant. So between these two cards, we have a lot of life gain and a lot of life drain. Wayward Servant is an incredible magic card against the zombie mirror and makes it very hard for them to race you because you just have more life and they have less life. And in general, it's a combo with Crypt Breaker, where with Crypt Breaker, you start to draw a bunch of cards, and you're paying the life. Wayward Servant gets you the life back and also lets you pressure them as you're doing it. You play more zombies, you draw more cards. Like, zombies, some of the games you play it as a combo deck, where you draw your whole deck and put everything into play and drain them out without ever having to attack. And that's nice against Marvel because if they're coming at you with sweepers, one of the things I noticed is I see a lot of people don't draw with Crypt Breaker enough, and it's easy when you have Wayward Servant because you can draw and drain them, and if they sweep you, well, you drew all these extra cards and you did all this damage anyways, you got a full hand to recharge. Wayward Servant, also great versus Mardu vehicles, or flying vehicles, or Jeskai vehicles, because they want to chip shot you, finish you off with unlicensed, ballista, cut to ribbons, etc. Extra 3, 4, 5 life, that does a lot of work. Dark Salvation, kill your dude, gain 2. Liliana's Mastery, gain 2. Diagraph Colossus, play another Wayward Servant, drain you out a lot, right? And then we get Binding Mummy, so we have to give up Relentless Dead. We don't have to give up Metallic Mimic. So if you don't like Binding Mummy here, you can play Metallic Mimic. I personally like Binding Mummy, although I think I'm going to change this. I'm going to change the 3rd Binding Mummy for a Mimic. Because Binding Mummy, it's not very good versus Control. Sometimes you're on the draw, you can't really use it that well, but Binding Mummy lets you have more removal in the deck without having to play more removal, which I think is important because you want to have answers to stuff like Heart of Kirin, but I don't think you want to main deck Fatal Push anymore. So, comment on Fatal Push. What if the metagame is 30% Marvel and the top tables are 50% Marvel? You just can't main Fatal Push. You can't, right? Jerry Thompson won the Pro Tour with 2 minutes deck. Our version had 4. We cut down to 3 the night before. I wanted to cut them all, but my team said, nah, you need to play them. I think that we were wrong on that, and that would have made a difference. But if we're not playing push, we still need removal. Binding Mummy does that. For one, it lets you clear off blockers, so again, people can't race you. This is relevant versus Tamer Marvel as well. You can tap their Marvel, you can tap down their Chumpers so they can't chump and get the energy from them. And also Binding Mummy with Crypt Breaker is a combo because you can make a zombie during their turn and use Binding Mummy to tap their attacker. So Binding Mummy is a very versatile card. Again, I think the third should maybe be a Metallic Mimic, but I've been playing even 4 and happy with it. Okay, another important thing for white. Anguished Unmaking is the best white card here probably. This card is so good. It's perfect in this deck. We have the life gain to not care about it. And this is actually the best card versus Marvel. You think maybe it's Transgress, Dispossess, attack their hand. But if you spend too much time attacking their hand and not developing the board, you have a negative tempo loss you're going to lose because they're going to develop and beat you in other ways. Anguished Unmaking is tempo positive because they play their Marvel, they spin and they miss, or they spin and they hit, you exile their Ulamog, you exile their Marvel. You at least got a mana advantage off that because they spent 4, you spent 3, right? And then they're going to have to spin and hit another Marvel, hit another Ulamog. And Transgress, Dispossess, they can tempo you. They can also hit you with top decks. And Anguish is pretty good against that. And Anguish is good. It exiles Gideon. It exiles anything that you possibly need to remove, flyers, whatever. So it's great. White also gives you access to Gideon. 6 planes, 4/4, 14. It's not hard to cast. You're 85% to cast him on the draw. That's high enough. 1 out of every 5 times you won't have the second white by the time your 4th land comes in. Gideon, I'm playing it main over push. People want to beat you with sweepers. This is the last card they want to see. If they're going to Sweltering Suns, you untap cast Gideon, all that pressure is coming back. Or you even play it before a sweeper. They sweep, Gideon's going to fucking keep trucking in and hitting them. So it's really good against what the deck's naturally weak to. It's also just a great card in this deck because it allows you to continue gumming up the board, even if they aren't knights. And the emblem is quite nice between Lord and Mastery and Gideon. We've got 11 emblems, and you can play Binding. Binding Mummy can be Mimic as well if you want to do that. And there's just so many fucking emblems. The creatures are so big, it's stupid. So, yeah, note on Binding Mummy. I feel like, half the time Mummy's better, half the time Metallic Mimic is better. I personally like Binding Mummy more because I like tactics. I like strategy. Binding Mummy gives you a lot of tactics that Mimic doesn't. So that's why I like it. I like to have options. Binding Mummy gives options. Yeah, Gideon. Makes sense? All right. Move on to the sideboard. White also gives you a big advantage in the mirror match because you have these cards. Declaration in Stone, exiling 6 zombies. Tokens, their tokens, not yours, is insane. It's also a great card versus green-red gods and stuff like that. Dusk Dawn is another insane card against big creature decks, good in the mirror match, good against humans and stuff like that. You let them have a ward, and then you kill Plague Wind, kill all of their stuff, keep all your stuff, and you have Dawn access to as well. So Dusk is crazy. If you have this in your opening hand, you just sandbag it and win. Okay, I've got the removal for the vehicle removal on the board, and this is decent versus zombies. Still have Scrounger and Gideon. I like Scrounger a lot. Binding Mummy, again, it's not very good versus control, so you can swap in the Scroungers for the Binding Mummies there. And they want to sweep you. You have Dreadwander return, you have Scrap Heap Scrounger return, you've got Shambling Vent that stays in play, you've got Gideon. You're not too mad about it. Then I've got 2 Transgress, 2 Dispossess. What I found for one, it's possible to have too much discard. you just have to be affecting the board, like I said. And Dispossess is a lot better than Lost Legacy, I believe. You see Lost Legacy in the top 8. Christian Calcano had the nut draw. He had turn 1 Dread Wander, turn 2 Double Crypt Breaker draw, turn 3 Lost Legacy draw, turn 4 Lost Legacy, drawing 2 cards a turn. Lost horribly because he wasn't advancing his board enough, and then Mueller got down Marvel and started spinning it for value. Marvel's the broken card. It's not Ulamog. If you're able to dispossess their Marvels, they can have Ulamog and try to cast him, and it maybe won't be enough. But it's not. You can Lost Legacy. Their Challengers Lost Legacy. Their Ulamogs. They put down Marvel, and they're still going to beat you. Marvel's the broken card, and Dispossess is the better answer for that. You can still Dispossess and lose. You can top deck Dispossess later, and it does nothing. But it's the better one. It's not Lost Legacy. So I'll go over a little bit of sideboard plans, the basics. If you're against control, you can cut the Binding Mummies for Scroungers. You can maybe cut a Wayward Servant for a 4th Gideon. And then a Wayward, maybe cut some. If they have Sweepers, Diagraph isn't that good. Going down on Zombies for a couple Transgress. Versus in the mirror match, Gideon's not really that good. It's fine, but you'd rather have this removal. Anguished isn't super good. You kind of want Fatal Push so that you can spike tempo back. So I'd probably be cutting these 5 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe cut a like a Dread Wanderer. It's not super important. Versus Marvel, even though I think the Binding Mummy is fine, I'm probably cutting those. Transgress, maybe a Grasp sometimes. Dispossess, Scroungers, and a Gideon. I'll cut the Diagraph Colossus here because I don't want to play a bunch of stuff just for them to sweep it. And those are the main matchups. Note on cards I'm not playing. I had an Aethersphere Harvester. I just don't think it's that good. It's small. It's slow. It's not aggro. I think it's decent versus like the flying vehicle decks that aren't Mardu, but there aren't enough of them for me to want to play it. And I just don't think it's good enough in the mirror match because 2 Anthems, it's not hard for a player to have 2 Anthems and it just becomes irrelevant. Or Grasp it, or Fatal Push it with whatever. And you can only have the energy to do it twice, so I just don't think it's that good. So that's where I'm at. I hope you found this useful. And run out and play with it. I have this video for you, but if you choose to invest in this and go for it, and I think it's a fine choice because it's not only good now, but most of the cards are going to exist after rotation, so it'll likely be a deck next season as well. Or maybe they'll print even some new zombies, so I think it's a reasonable investment. If you want extra help on it, then you can apply to join the mastermind. There'll be a link to that below. I will coach you and let you know as you update stuff. But I just want to throw out this there to influence the metagame because it's dumb to me that it's just all how much Marvel there is when there's a deck that has a good Marvel matchup that people aren't playing, don't know how to play. So this is that deck. Give it a try and let me know what you think. I will talk to you soon. See you in the comments. Peace. Much love.